Oh, how funny. How funny of a comment is that, honestly, guys? So we're not fans? We're not fans of Sapphire Steel, guys? Huh? Is that what's going on? Let me know. We'll turn off the ducks. We'll come say, good morning. How's everyone doing this morning? So I did promise a couple weeks ago on stream that I'm going to be doing more morning streams. I'm having these headphones on, and you guys can tell me if you guys can hear this or not. I'm going to put some songs on in my background. So, like, if you can hear this, let me know. It's important. But yeah, so I promised I'd be doing some morning streams. And as I was going through the last couple weeks and deciding, like, hey, like, what would I do if I went on mornings? And like an international TCG player, I like Sapphire Steel. Good morning, good morning, good morning. And, you know, for me, that's good. That means you can't hear it. That means it's only playing in my head, so it's fine. To me, right now I'm still kind of in my off season for work, and I want to, you know, I'm on like this like real big community kick. And I think a good way to kind of reinforce that is through live streams, because I can kind of sit here, I can do what I'm going to normally do, and I'm going to have conversations with you guys and kind of just like build that community. It's a big thing with the Discord. It's why we've been starting to do webcam games in the Discord, because I think it's nice to like sit down with people that are a part of your community, play games, get to meet other people in the community. And then when official organized play starts again, like, we're going to be able to go and say hello to one another, have chats, you know, build some friendships. And that's kind of like what it's been about recently. And like when I've been really thinking about like, hey, like, what can I do in the mornings? How can I be active? How can I like have these conversations? And there's like a million things I think I can do, if I'm being honest. But some of the things I definitely want to do are going to be like kind of like showcase you guys what I go through, you know? Oh God, Dick Burns is in the house, guys. He's so confused. He's not on stream, so he's got to get in the chat room somehow. You know, he doesn't know what he's doing. He's confused, guys. But I really like the conversations, and you know, this was the start of this, right? Like, what's our question of the day to start? And the conversation I really want to have. Is Sapphire Steel a problem? Are we overreacting? Honestly, you know, is it possible that we're overreacting? Is it possible that it is too good? Is it possible that it's too non-interactive? I watched a lot of it, right? We commentated. I did not. We can talk about this a little bit before we get into that, but this weekend was the first time where, you know, we had 50 people in a room, maybe more than 50 people. Honestly, I'm not sure. I think there was a couple people that showed up that were kind of there to support the other people in the tournament, and you know, they didn't play, but they played in the Win-A-Box tournaments. So we probably had over 50 people in the house, and I was judging. I was, you know, setting up the stream. I was working the stream with Kylie. I was also trying to commentate, and it was a lot. It was a lot to do, and I don't think I can do it all anymore. So in the future for those events, I'm probably gonna, you know, most likely take a step back from commentating, just because I think it's unfair to the room that I'm like distracted. I'm not kind of around and available for immediate judge calls and things like that. So we'll see what happens moving forward with those types of streams. But there is a world where I might just have to focus on other things to kind of make sure the room itself is running fairly. Or I'm going to have to work with Keith and make sure, you know, Keith is kind of has someone in place that can make the right judge rulings so the tournament runs fairly. But yeah, in the time that I was there, you know, and we were watching, and, you know, we, again, like, just so anyone else coming in, right? Like, is Sapphire Steel a problem? I think it's a really fair question. I think that it is very, very good. I think that it is potentially scary. If I'm being completely honest, because there was a lot of very negative play experiences around it. And when you start seeing games that there just isn't a lot of interaction, it's scary, because I felt like in Azurite Sea and in the Amethyst metagame and in the Elsa metagame, there was a lot of back and forth interactions, a lot of back and forth choice between the gameplay mechanics, and it felt like two players were playing against one another. And I think that is, on average, the most healthy you can be in any card game. Where this weekend was the first time that I sat and I watched games, and I'm a little worried that there is not actually interaction. And that's the biggest fear. The biggest fear is that the deck is just going to play itself, and not itself necessarily, but just it's not going to really care about what your opponent is doing enough. And we're talking about a deck that has a 3 cost that you can play for free. That's a 3/3. A 4 cost that you can play for free. That's a 4/4. The 4/4 actually gets you a card back for it. So not only is it stats, not only is it inkable, not only can you play for free, it also might replace itself. So while I think at first glance, we looked at it and we said, oh, I don't know, like maybe it's fine. It's just a 4/4, who cares? When it's just a 4/4, I agree. I think if it was just a 4/4 and it was like when you played it, you look at the top 4 items, I don't think we would even need to have a real conversation about it. But when you play it for free, kind of insane. Bell's just a 3/3, right? Yeah, it's just a 3/3. But when you play for free, it's kind of insane. The idea that we can play this card for free, a 3/3 for free, a 4/4 for free, and then we can sing songs with them for free. And we're talking about majority of the best songs in the game. 3 and 4 cost songs. That's our Zeus's. That's our Strength of Raging Fires. That's our Let the Storm Rage on, right? Like we're now compounding all of these things that we get to do for free. It's a lot. It's a lot. So I'm not here to say, hey, I don't think it's unbeatable. I'm not here to say I think that it's like, pitchforks out just yet. But I will say the scariest thing for me is that it feels very, very, very non-interactive. And the amount of non-interactive things adds up a ton. And I think that's mostly going to lead to like conversations that really suck. Players want to play the games against one another. They want to feel like they were in the game. And I think this deck has the potential to just like take a lot of that away. So that's kind of like my first point. But let me keep track of what's going on here, right? Let's walk through some of these. So I think my biggest issue is an effective 1-drop with 3 willpower and a way to play Dime for free very easily, and while having access to Premier Removal and Seal. A lot of what I was saying, right? I think like the Tamatoa is just like, it's ironic icing on top. The idea that you just get your items back for free, and the idea that you can quest and put them into play for free, it just like is compounding the amount of things that we can do in this deck for free without your opponent's interaction. That's kind of just point 1, right? I'm not the best yet, but I ran 4 or 5 games versus BS Crab on Lorcanito last night. I don't know what that is. And definitely was sucked out, being such an odd-sided match. Yeah, I think that this is a common feeling that we're going to keep seeing happen, in all honesty. I think the fact that there are different builds indicates health. More counters will emerge as time moves on. I hope. But this is kind of where I want to get to with point 2 is, while I think counters will emerge, my first conversations around the deck after the fact was, what are those decks? And are those decks arguably healthy for the game? I think we lived in a world where Emerald Steel was the most dominant deck for honestly 6 months. basically the entire Shimmering Skies, basically the entire Ursula Return and Shimmering Skies metagame. Emerald Steel was probably the most, like, the best deck. It maybe didn't win every DLC, but I do think it was the most consistent and most powerful deck, and had probably the most free wins than any other matchup. And if we go back to a metagame that is kind of revolved around Diablo and revolved around cards like Prince John and cards like Gontu and cards like Pete, I think that we were kind of happy that wasn't true in Azerite C. I think we were really excited that Azerite C did not have this huge appeal to Emerald Steel players. And this is the type of deck I think Emerald Steel would love. I think Emerald Steel is very good into this deck. I think it has a lot of opportunity. I think you can build it very specifically to compete against it in a fair way. But now we're talking about a metagame where, like, we're playing a Solitaire Sapphire Steel deck and an Emerald Steel discard / tax you deck. And, like, if for those of you that are here that don't understand what tax means, it means cards like Gontu, they tax you. They make you pay more for your cards. Cards like Pete are like a weird tax to just say, like, no, you can't do that. And then, of course, like the new Pirate Pete that also shifts says, no, you can't do that. So all of a sudden you're now playing this game where half your, like, not half, but let's just say, 15% of your deck reads your opponent can't do what they want to do. And then the other 15% reads discard a card. So if that's like one of the options, like, that's not very great either. If another option, ironically, is a card like Ink Geyser, I think that Ink Geyser will prevent the deck from being completely unfair at the end of the game. There was a match on stream where I think it was the top 8 match versus Nunez. Nunez and Stefan were playing, and I think Nunez had more cards in his hand the entire time than Stefan did. He had more ink in play, and he had more characters and more items in play. He just literally, he was losing the lore race, right? And, like, this is quotation marks. Like, he was losing the game in terms of lore, the whole game. But when you look at his field at the end of the game, there are 14 items in play, 4 characters, and he had 19 ink, and he still had like 5 cards in his hand. Like, all of those things were happening the entire game, and there was nothing Stefan could do about it. That's scary, right? So a card like Ink Geyser says, okay, listen, you can do this, you can have all the cards you want, but you can only work with 3 resources. You can't set up this giant, I'm going to play Dime and Tamatoa and Dime all in the same turn, gain 15. Like, no, we can't. You're not going to set this lineup. So I think that, like, if there's a world where this deck is good, then Ink Geyser will basically inherently become good. And that's another deck that I don't think, on average, people are going to want to play against. So now we're talking about the potential of 3 decks that it's often referred to as new player experience. I sometimes refer to as negative play experience, but I think in Disney Lorcana, it's really good to understand new player experience. I think that if a new player walks into a league night and he sits down across from any one of these 3 decks, the first time it happens, he's gonna be like, "Oh yeah, that was cool." The second time it happens, he's gonna be like, "Oh man, it's really annoying." The third time it happens, they might just never come back. So that's my current fear. My current fear is that we're going to walk into a time and a place where, if this is what the metagame is going to look like for the next few months, it's going to be potentially rough. I hope that's not true. I hope aggro has a chance. I hope that we saw some lights of Amber Steel this weekend be kind of good, and I hope that stays true. But right now, my initial reaction, my first impression reaction is, I'm a bit worried about the new player experience. That's kind of where I'm at. Let's see. What else do we have here? My concern is how cards like Bellin and Tamato have influenced card design in the future. Ravensburgers choose to leave them be. Aggro cards, utility items that pop themselves, etc. Yeah, that's a good point, right? We have Popsicle. We have Fortisphere. Past that, how many cards do we have? How many items do we have that come into play and draw a card? Is Inkcaster one, right? Like, Inkcaster is an uninkable that does it. I'm not sure how many more there are after that, but this is a very true space. Like, how many more times can we get a 1 cost uninkable now? Like, how do we get back to that? How many more times can we get like any inkable that's an item that draws a card now? Because if it just reads draw a card and then we get to pick it up and just like banish and play another card and play, that's a problem, right? So I think that's always an issue for sure. Is Oswald the best build? I played it last set, missed more. Okay, so this is a great thing, right? So last set, we actually just had a conversation about this in our team chat, because last set for the encounter tournament, Pave played Oswald items. I think it's still on the channel. You can go back and watch it on the stream from then. And it was honestly very close to the same deck. The biggest difference here is that like we had cards like Ariel, Treasure Collector, the 6-cost uninkable, and we had Sheriff of Nottingham, like the one that costs less to play items for free. So you had more uninkables, right? In some ways, same level of like lore potential power, but it made the deck way more inconsistent because of the amount of uninkables in the deck. So now when you go, here's a Bell, cost free, you can now fight aggro really easily. Not easily, but like, all right, if I'm being honest, really easily, right? Like, Belle is there to help you fight aggro, so she's inkable. Scrooge, here's another 4/4 that you might be able to play for free on like, I don't know, turn 3 if you like, if everything goes kind of insane. So now we can have a 4/4 that is also inkable. Now we have a 6-drop that is also inkable that gets us our items back in our hand, which means we get to refill our hand. And when we quest, we just get to like play more stuff for free. So the deck, the core of this deck existed. It was already here. It was already for anyone to find and play in set 6 since basically Oswald was created. But it was, there was a lot of inconsistent levels to it. There was a lot of like cons to the, to match the pros. I don't think any of those things are there now. I think it's very clear that, adding 12 inkables to my deck that fight and sing and get me card advantage over and over again has proven that it might have just been, one too many cards over the limit. I don't know. We'll have to see. I also have mixed feelings about the current meta. It's the first time since 18 months where I don't enjoy Lorcana a lot. Again, all right, it's week 1, okay. A lot of time left, but I think we just talk about initial impressions. And initial impressions are pretty bad. I didn't actually go and watch the SSG finals just yet, but I heard that it was rough. I mean, our top 8 match in the stream, it was one of those where it was tough. I think the 6th-round match might be a little bit more worse. Like, it might be a little worse because I think that you can actually see the Amethyst Steel player like actually like upset by the interactions of just saying like, man, like, what do I do to this? Like, what do I do to compete against this? But I think that the top 8 match against Ruby Sapphire for me was without a doubt the most impressive games of the day. Those were the most scary. I thought that Stefan had a legitimate chance to win those games. And, maybe if Stefan makes a different play, it ends up differently. But it's very hard to figure that out on day 1. I think it's going to be very hard for the average player to figure that out over the next 2-3 weeks. I think it's like one of those, right, where, we'll have this conversation real quick. I'm going to leave this up so I can come back to this so I remember. But I think it's one of those where early on we see this new deck comes out. It's being featured on every content channel known to man because it should be. And a lot of people might by themselves try to break it, try to just like beat it. Maybe they can't afford it because let's be honest, guys, it is unreal expensive right now, which is a whole other conversation I'm going to get to eventually. But like, if you can't join them, you want to beat them. And I think it's going to be very difficult for the majority of players to do that. And I think the average player isn't going to be capable of it. And what I mean like what like I guess what the issue with that is that it's so much easier to just join them. Right now, in like the first couple of weeks, if you have a 1K coming up this week, like I would be way more contested to challenge everyone at the store and say, did you figure it out in a week? Because if you didn't, I'm just going to win the game. So I think that it might take a few weeks to like really crack that code. That's my kind of my humble opinion of it, but I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Players talk a lot about Oswald missing, but the fact that when you hit it, it plays for free, it makes up for misses. If you even high roll a dime or a workshop, it's hard to lose. I think 20% of the time is probably good enough. And we also kind of say this for like every card, right? Like Ariel, like let's go back to a Spectacular Singer. So many people complain when they miss with Spectacular Singer. They're like, oh, I had 4 cards, I missed it, I didn't get it, and I, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's great that Spectacular Singer can replace itself, and on average, sometimes you need her to, but the real keyword is just Singer 5. So you're just happy if your Singer 5 sticks because it just lets you play the rest of your game. I think that similar to Oswald, where, like, I played 3 games last night, and I think in the 3 games last night, I probably high rolled. I went, 5 for 12. And I did hit 2 dimes. So, like, whenever you just go, ink a resource, 7 costs, woo, all right, that just makes up for the last 4 missing. Because it means that you never have to pay 7 for it. Like, if you're playing a deck that either can ink a resource and play it for free, or just quest with a character and play it for free, and you just get to literally put a 7-cost card into play without paying for it, I mean, guys, that's insane. That's insane. So good. So good. To be honest, I don't even know if it's just me, if it's just a me problem or meta itself. I think it's a mix of both. Could be. I think it's early. I think it's still early, and decks need to respond to BS over the next few weekends. Gantu could make green steel. Yep, purple steel moving forward. I don't know if Gantu is the right call for a purple steel, personally. I think that it's very difficult to fit him in that deck. I could see it if like it's a necessity, right? Like if it's a necessity, that's one thing. But I think in general he does not like ultimately walk in into it. But it's at least interesting, I'd say. Hard to say, but I don't know. That's what I think. I think that, if it were me, I think that playing it the next few weekends, if you have the cards, just innately, it's going to be really difficult for players to easily understand how to play against the deck. I could go back on the day and retrace the steps where I think players made a mistake against Nunez or Braden and make an opportunity of saying like, okay, if they did this correctly, maybe they win the game. But you can't guarantee it, right? Like even if we alter that line and we took like we create a fork in the road and we say, hey, like if we went this way, here's the outcomes. It's not even a guarantee that they would have won the game. It's very easy to look at it and go, oh, they messed up, that's why they lost. And sure, like you can make that argument, but the real truth is that there's always more to the story, and there's no guarantee that it played out correctly anyway. But there were definitely a couple times on stream where I think Stefan overvalued the wrong card, and he could have removed like an Oswald, and that could definitely affect the game in a big way. But that's life. Same thing for me in the finals. Me in the finals in game 3, we felt that he had to play Rapunzel so he can draw 3 more cards. And if he draws 3 more cards in that turn, there's a really good chance that he just has a much better board state moving forward, and he might be able to get to 20 in that game. Still very difficult to say that though. You don't know, like we can't guarantee what the next 2 cards were after those draws. So if they weren't good enough, they weren't good enough. But there's definitely a lot of room to improve, and there's a big takeaway in information. We talked about this a lot when DKP won Australia. Was that like the deck was, it wasn't like this insanely different deck, right? It was a lot of the core concepts just played a little bit differently and understood by DKP a little bit differently. but players didn't understand, exactly what the goal of that deck was. It was really just stick a mana, protect the mana, and gain 10, 15, 20 lore from it. But when you see this deck in action, and now it's going to have such a limelight on it, and it's the start of the season, right? DKP was the end of the season, so it was like, oh, he figured out a way to win an event, a really good event, a really important event for him at the end of a season. This is like opening weekend. You had 3 tournaments, in all honesty, that were all won by Sapphire Steel. 2 of them were won by this deck, and there was a more mid-range tempo version won overseas. And that's just like saying, okay, like we now understand public enemy number 1 is Sapphire Steel. It's week 1. How do we fight that the next couple weeks? We'll see. So let's talk about pricing, right? I think I'm actually going to bring this up because it is that actually that insane. We put out a pre-sale guide, it's our finance guide. That's going to be in the Metafy. And I keep talking about it, but this ultimate guide, right? It's on the Metafy, and part of that was a pre-sale guide for Arceus Island. And we were pretty right on our guesses, and we definitely thought that Tamatoa and Scrooge were going to be expensive cards. But by no means, and I do mean this, by no means did we think Tamatoa was going to start at $50 and end at almost $80. Guys, I sold Tamatoas for $78 each yesterday. Someone just bought 4 of them. That happened. So the idea that it didn't, stay or drop is incredibly uncommon for a new set. Normally everything starts high because the pre-sale prices are high, and it slowly dips off as everyone races to the bottom. This was the complete opposite. This was everybody bought immediately because they all knew it was cracked, and then it just kept rising and rising and rising. And I'm not even kidding. At the end of the day, it was Sunday night. I was just like, oh, you know what? I'll just put 4. No one on TCG Player had 4 of them. We were the only ones. So I was like, oh, let me just put 4 up there for $78 each. Let's see what happens. I woke up the next morning. We had sold them. It was insane. So A, that's scary. B, if you're not playing in a tournament in the next 2 weeks, wait till big box release. Don't buy any more Tamatoas. Let big box come out. Let another flood of product come out. It can't stay that high, guys. It just can't. I don't know. I don't think it can. It's tough. The more product that's opened, the cheaper it should get. The idea that if it's not just Scrooge and Tamatoa, Rise of the Floodborns had Beast, and it was like, yeah, Beast is the number 1 card. Inklands had Ursula, right? Ursula's Return had Diablo. These were all single targets, good legendaries, but there was also Sisus, there was also complementary things. Right now, the problem is in week 1, this deck got so much hype that everyone's like, oh my God, I need to get these cards now. And if you're not playing, right? If you're not playing in a real tournament, if you're not playing out anything aside from League over the next few weeks, don't go and buy $75 Tamatoas. Don't go buy $60 Scrooges. Just do yourself a favor. Wait a couple weeks. Wait for big box to get a bunch of product as well. Let more stuff come out. Let more sellers come out. And that's coming from me, who's a seller, right? I'm telling you that I don't think the card should be worth $80. That's actually insane. So yeah, if you can wait, I would wait. If you're playing a big event in the next couple weekends and you believe that it's going to be the make or break reason, then hopefully it doesn't feel like it's too much pay to win. I look at it I kind of look almost like you're paying for them up front anyway. If I'm going to play this deck in an event and I need these cards, well, then I'm just paying so I can get into the event, and then whenever I win back, I'm just replenishing. Same thing with product. There's always a weird conversation about when you're playing for product. The guys over at SSG having 10 cases. Okay, so they had to buy their cards, right? They had to buy all their cards for their 10 cases, but okay, whatever. They won their cases. Now it's their choice. All right, I can open all this or I can just sell the product online. it's really not much different. It's just paying up front for it. It doesn't really matter what the cost was. Now, granted, everyone with the Sapphire Steel deck that did purchase it beforehand and before it blew up, way better off than everyone else. That's very clear at this point. But, let me bring this up now. Oh, guys. Thanks for hanging out with me this morning. I'm hoping to do these 3 times a week on these morning streams. It very likely could be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays. That could be the plan. Maybe not. Depending on it. The hope is it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays. But, I want to quickly go through and showcase some of this stuff to you guys. Let me put this on stream so you guys are seeing what I'm seeing. Kapow. Yeah. I've been on a lot of tangents, so we haven't really covered exactly everything I want to do on these, but I'm excited to kind of get into these and have fun. I put a feeler out with some guests that can make this time slot work. It's very difficult, most people have normal jobs. They don't sit around all morning like I do until my kids get done school. But right now I'm in that off season. I get a little more free time. I can kind of commit a little bit more to content and things like that. So I may as well take advantage of it. I'm wondering if my wife is still listening to stream, or if she's listening to YouTube music, because my YouTube music turned off and I'm upset about it. If I break out in a song, guys, I don't apologize. All right, so let's just look at it. All right, good. Maybe she's not listening anymore. So, this is normal, right? Like if we can see this, right? Like I'll go bigger here. This is normal, right? We started at $25. We dropped all the way to $6. Okay. That's what we expect. That's exactly what we expect. All the legendaries in the set should do literally the same thing. And that's where we should be. This is actually a cheap price. So like Bagara, right? Like even Bagara here, we started up here. We were at $25. We dropped all the way to $12. So like, this is definitely the things that we expect to happen and are normal. And you're like, yeah, like if people want to pre-order stuff, like that's on them. That's their choice. We always tell everyone, don't pre-order anything. It's ridiculous. Like these prices should never, ever stay the same ever. But it fell off. Right. And I think that that's going to be true for like almost every single card we look at. Almost every single card we look at. Even the Enchanteds, for what it's worth. Of course, all right. But if we look at this, okay. What happened? It went away. Why did I go to Rise of the Floodborn? How did I click on a Scrooge and it went to Rise of the Floodborn? How did that happen? Anyway. So, Scrooge started here. It started $25, and then it went up to $29. It came down to $23, and boom, now we're at like $40. This is not. It's not normal for a new set to make this type of spike. Just not. So that's certainly alarming. And then of course, this is the scariest of it all. This literally never dropped. You could have pre-ordered these, right? Like. We could have pre-ordered these at $45. Anyone that pre-ordered these at $45, you are the biggest winner of the weekend. Congratulations to you. But for those of you that didn't, you're seeing like $65 right now. This guy has 15 of them, okay? Cupcakes, Cardakery, or whatever it is. He's got 15 of these guys for $70 each. He's the winner. He held off for the weekend. He's like, I'm not selling mine for $50. Well, he accrued 15 of these guys, and he's selling them for $70 each. He's going to kill. These are going to be gone. I guarantee you, without a shadow of a doubt, but within the next 24 hours, these cards are gone. Like, people are going to buy them. So, he's it, though, right? Like, every other thing on here is 1, two, one, two, which also makes me laugh. Like these people that have one or two of them, like this guy is going to sell all these. No one's going to go on here and buy 4 different sellers for one each. Like it's not going to happen. That's really stupid. Don't do those things. You can't even guarantee they're going to get your playset that way. So it's always better to have this. And if you're all the way up here, right? If you're all the way up here and this guy has 15 of these, you're not selling this card. So if you're trying to sell the card, you're not going to. It's not going to happen. These will go well before any of those things. But if I were any of these guys, I'm looking like, oh man, I need to sell this. If I was Uncle Sam Singles here, if I had to sell my Tamatoa, and I'm like, I want to get a good price for it before big box release, because guys, listen, I'm telling you, big box release is going to happen, and all these prices are going to plummet. So if anyone's trying to get more than what I think they can right now, then they should be this guy, right? Like this TCG Obsessed guy, the $65. If I only needed one Tamatoa, I'm buying it from this guy because he's smart. He's like, oh, I'm going to be underneath the $70 dude. Like, how am I going to sell this? How am I going to sell this $75 Tamatoa if this guy has 15 of them at 70? It's never going to happen. So this is just like TCG listing 101 here. If you're just trying to sell your cards for more than what you expect them to be worth in a week, just literally, like if you have a Tamatoa and you're listing on TCG Player, you should just go back and list for $65.95, and then you're the first guy on this list that sells this card. If you can't include shipping because you're a new seller, well then you have to be like 63 whatever because you have to include shipping. So, but that's kind of the point here, is that this guy right now, it's 15 of them. He's gonna be the guy that sells everything. None of these other people are gonna sell. I think that some of these on here. So even for me, like, the other day I told you I had them up for $78.95. I had 4 of them up. I sold all 4 of mine at $78.95 before any of these people here sold theirs. These listings, like this listing for $75, it's been here for days. This listing for $77 has been here for days. Like I put mine up as a 4 of at $78.95 on Sunday night and sold them before any of these people sold one, because no one's going to go on here and buy 4 of these from 4 different people. It's just, I hope you guys are getting a little less in the TCG Player here. As someone that has only been doing TCG Player since Lorcana started, I have learned infinite pieces of knowledge. And a huge shout out to Scott for those things, and a huge shout out to Dick Burns for those things. They have been great teachers in this world. But yeah, so like the point here is that, man, if you were the $45 winner, you were awesome, because now you're just paying $20 plus. Honestly, like you can see it here. There's one guy here with 65, everyone else is 70. So now you're paying $25 more than you could have a couple days ago. And that's crazy. It is. That's crazy. Even with like, what is Bell? Like, we need a commander. Oh, let's go. There's a WoW TCG friend. Commander Uthok. Oh boy. So for Magic players, this was Cranial Extraction. Basically, when you play this card, you name a card, and then you search your opponent's deck, and you remove all cards from those from the game. The problem is we don't have a from the game zone, so they would have to create an entire zone for this to work. And I don't know that they're going to do that. Hard to say. Not to say that they couldn't, right? Like you can always add to the game if it's a design space that's necessary. Maybe that happens. I don't know. That's tough. But I do love me some Commander Uthok. That was a good one. I can tell you what, I don't use TCG Player as a seller much because I know what I want to do and I don't know how to do it. I'll just type it in. Bam. Number 1. So what's our comment up to? This is great. 45-cent comment. 45-cent comment, but this guy, it was 32 of them. Says they're 75 cents. I'll go back to Big Man. My bad. So yeah, this guy has 32 of them at 75 cents. So if you want a play set, you're gonna buy from this guy, right? Because he's got 4 of them. You're only gonna pay shipping once. Like we're not gonna go down here and go, oh, 45 cents plus $1.30, 50 cents plus $1.30. Like you're not doing that, right? Like that's not happening. So this guy with 32 bells at 75 cents each, he's the winner. because people are going to buy from him. They're just going to buy 4 of them from him, and then the shipping on that. And like, he's the winner right now. Any one of these schmucks that are over here, like, you know, like us, we have where I just saw us. We're at 91 cents or something like that. 95 cents. All right. We have 41 of them though. So like when these ones sell out, like they'll eventually sell out. But we say basically, even for us, this is probably closer to, if you see that we have 4 of these and maybe you want other stuff, you're going to go to our shop and you're going to look at other things, which, by the way, you know, if you are, I don't think it's Scott's updated in a few days, but this is when you have an inventory that has like 4 of everything, you can kind of just get away with whatever you want. And that's really where, like, these are foils, guys. Look at it. You guys want some foils? I don't think anyone's going to buy this. P.S. No one should buy this. If you're watching, don't buy these. But like, if someone wants to spend $104 on a foil Tamatoa, more power to them. But seriously, don't buy this. It's not worth it. I normally keep all our foils, guys. Like, I liked having a foil playset. But if it's really hard to deny a $100 bill on a card that should not be $100. So like, that's just like business 101. I think that if you ask me what foil Tamatoas are in 2 weeks after big box release, I would hope that they are the price of normal ones right now. I'd hope that they go to like $70. Similar to Rapunzel's and stuff like that in Chapter 1. Like, you know, foil Rapunzels in Chapter 1 were like $60-$70 for like a really long time. I think Tamatoas will be like that. I'm actually surprised Maui Sharks didn't get to that price. But there's also a world where, because of the Enchanted, we never get there. Like, Maui Shark doesn't have an Enchanted. Rapunzel didn't have an Enchanted. So for a very long time, like, Rapunzel just went up in value because of the Enchanted. Like Foil Diablo, as an example, never really got crazy because there was an Enchanted version. So Tamatoa might actually stay pretty low. The foil ones might not actually be worth that much more than normal ones, just because the Enchanted's so good. So no, like, I'm just saying, listen, don't spend $105 on a foil. Like, that's crazy. Don't do that. I'm just being real. Like, I'm just, you know, listen, I can be both, right? Like, if somebody out there that's not here listening wants to spend $105 on a card, like, that's on them. That's their choice. But I'm telling you guys, don't do it. Like, just don't do it. It's not a good choice. It's not a good choice. Oh, so I'm glad that we're here hanging out. I guess this is a good time to talk about what we really want to be doing on these morning streams. Mostly, it's definitely about drinking coffee. It's definitely about having the conversation, interacting with you guys. I'm also going to be trying to get some guests. I have a couple people that have already reached out that are definitely interested. So, yeah, maybe even tomorrow I have a special guest and we come on here and we talk Disney Lorcana. I am looking for subjects that I am, like, not educated in. I think it's really important that, you know, when I'm here, normally I'm looking to educate you guys and educate the community on, like, my opinions, my views of, like, the metagame and things like that, and like whatever other topic that might come up that, like, Dick and I cover on a stream and things like that. So if I'm gonna go out and interview someone, I'm gonna make sure that it's still educational. And if I can learn something along the way, that's just a big bonus. And I've definitely have talked to a couple people in the community that I think that they have something very interesting to offer. I think that they have some, like, a really good conversation to be had. And I'm very excited to have some of those conversations and share them with you guys, and introduce them to the community and things like that, because it's important that we try and learn as much as possible. I think it's very important, you know, for me, I think in 2024, I think I read like 20 books, and it's like one of those, like, I'm like a real big person on education and, like, trying to, like, get better and, like, kind of attack the things that I've felt that I was bad at the last 10 years. And this year I feel like I've been bad. I actually haven't really been listening and reading as many books as I would want to at this point. There's also been less travel. I do a lot of my reading when traveling, like, even when I'm just driving to work and things like that, or, you know, on planes. So since there's been less of that, I haven't really spent as much time in the car, which means if I'm at home, I'm probably not doing it. I'm probably way closer to just like just working on content and things like that. So I don't know. but yeah, I think it's important. So for me, if I'm going to be utilizing this time block, I want to make sure we utilize it to the fullest. And if we can learn from people in the community that are educated in these other subjects that I'm not, I think that's just great. I think it's a great opportunity to get you guys some information about like very niche things that most people aren't even talking about. Like I'm not talking about them because I don't have the answers. I don't have the skill set to be talking about that. Like I don't go on like shout out to Liam, right? Like, he goes on and he discusses the things with the artist. He just, breaks them down. Like he's clearly got a mind for that. I do not. I'm not going to do that because I can only tell you like, yeah, it looks great. I just don't have the education for that level of thing. So if I can bring someone on and I think the subject is interesting, I think it's fun, then I think that's what we're going to do. I think it'll be good. We're going to have some nice chats. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of like go through and showcase, maybe how I do my research and how I do like the meta report, and like have you guys a part of it and kind of like have the conversation around what is good, what is bad. Like that whole topic this morning around Sapphire Steel. I think it's great to have a voice to like just have that conversation of, man, like what is our first impressions? What are we worried about? How can we combat it? How can we fight it? We haven't touched it yet, right? We haven't touched it yet, but like, is there a world where we see our second errata or ban? Like Bucky came out real strong in Chicago, at DLC Chicago. I think it was like 45% of day 2 or something like that. Maybe not Chicago. I think it was like 30% of day 2. It obviously won the tournament. And then by the time we got to Fort Worth, it was 50% or almost of day 2 of Chicago. But in between then is when we had the errata for Bucky. And there was a lot of community complaint around Bucky. And whether or not it was deserved will always be a debate amongst the community. I personally think it deserved to be errated because it was just the negative play experience for new players. And honestly, all players, nobody liked playing against Bucky. Like when they did the thing, it wasn't fun. I think that this Sapphire Steel deck, if it remains, a deck that people are going to play and people are going to, just showcase. And if it's like every time I turn on a stream, like if this weekend there's a bunch of 1Ks that are streamed this weekend and you go on and you watch and the majority of the rounds are this deck, I guarantee you by the end of the weekend, you're just gonna be like, man, this is not fun. Like this isn't fun. It like I said it earlier, but it's like one of those, like the first time it happens, you're like, oh, that's really cool. That's really different. That's really awesome. And then the second time it happens, you're just like, okay, it seems a little too easier. It seems easier than I expected it to be. And then the third and the fourth and the fifth and the sixth and the seventh time, you're just like, okay, I'm not actually playing the game. This isn't really fun. Why did I even shuffle my deck? If that remains to be true, which was my first impression of the deck from the weekend, watching it, over and over again on repeat, then I kind of expect, the precedent is there that when a negative play experience exists, Ravensburger certainly will act on it. So I kind of expect that if the negative play experience remains, if there's enough community outlash on just like the feeling that they have playing against the deck, then I do mostly expect something to happen. So we'll see. So I played man, I don't know why, but my camera's being an asshole today. I should buy a new camera, right, guys? That's the answer. I should just finally suck it up, get rid of the webcam, and buy a real camera. Just tell me. Just be honest. It's fine. I'll do it. I'll just tell Scott, like, Scott, we're buying a camera. That'll be the end of it. Bad for the brand. Nunez. Is Nunez bad for the brand? No. Nunez is great for the brand. I think Kylie's lying to me. I think she's listening to music, guys. Because my music keeps turning off. It's upsetting. I don't know why. I need more music. Boom. I can hear again. The problem I have with Gontu is that he's not good enough. Maybe true. I wish he was also inkable. which is the part of the problem, right? Is that a card like Gantu can never be inkable. But in this instant, as we're building decks, as we're gonna like start thinking about answers to it, Gantu is the perfect card that if it were inkable, you would feel so great about playing it. Whereas the opposite was, say, for I'll find him off Platinum. Everyone's like, oh, we'll just play I find him off Platinum. You're like, yeah, but against every other deck in the metagame, it's always ink, and it's going to feel so bad when you draw it against every other deck. If it's in my opening hand, I'm probably keeping it and just understanding it's my turn 1 ink every game. But like that's kind of where we're at. You're like, well, is this a way? Like, I'm not even sure it matters. If I'm being completely honest, in some games, might not even matter. Like, what's the over under number of items that you have to banish for that card to feel good? I don't even know. Like, is it like, oh, if I banish Fishbone Quill Workshop and Lucky Dime, it's good enough? Maybe, but if they just play a Tamatoa and they just put them back in their hand, is it even good enough? Like, I don't even think it's good enough. Like, and I've seen that conversation a bunch, and the more I've thought about it, I'm like, I don't even know. I don't even think it does enough. I don't think it does anything. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is good enough. Hard to say. But yeah, like a card like Gantu taxing a deck like this would be great. But how good is Gantu in a Ruby Sapphire? Like, is he good enough? Does he just get banished by everything? Doesn't that feel terrible? And he's uninkable, so I have to play him, right? Like, I can't. There's not much I can do. Like, obviously, we can build the deck. We can play Mulan. We can play Strike a Good Match. Maybe we can do those things and we just ditch it in our bad matchups. But that means we're just playing other cards to like facilitate the problem. I don't know. That's where I'm at right now, right? Like, that's kind of part of the problem. Is that all of the answers, and this is true for any problematic deck, is that in most cases the answers are always situational, and the cards that are good are just always good. It's not like getting a free bell is ever really that bad. Like, okay, maybe you don't do it against Emerald Steel Discard, which is a whole part of the problem. You're like, oh, I just like won't bell like on turn 1. It's fine. Like, I'll just keep it in my hand. I'll use the ink later. I'll just play it for 3 later. Like, whatever. Like, I don't need this card on turn 1 if I don't have a Let the Storm Rage on, you know? If Scrooge, right? Like, Scrooge is not, it's not like, oh, it's only good against, no, he's just like a free dude. Tamatoa is just good. Maui Shark, right? Maui Shark is just good. So when you start talking about the answers are only good into specific things, and you have to have them. So it's like, that's where it starts to get really problematic. And that's just kind of how the game works, for what it's worth. But it's one of those that's really difficult to build things specifically in a world where we have uninkables. So anytime it comes up to uninkables, you're like, oh, I need this conditional uninkable for this conditional matchup. Well, how many times? How long is my tournament? How many times am I going to play against this matchup? What is my odds of drawing this card? Because if I have to play 4 of an uninkable in my deck, and it's only good in 10% of my matchups, I'm probably doing something wrong, right? Like, that's the argument. So tough, guys. So tough. I don't know. Maybe Robin Hood Sharpshooter will make a comeback. I don't know that Robin Hood Sharpshooter was ever existed, just so we're clear. But Answer Oswald helps Storm to get rid of, I don't know, he's uninkable too. Yeah. I don't know. He's a 1/4 also, which means he's bad in every other matchup, right? Like, Robin, what's he doing against Ruby Sapphire? He's just dying a fiery death. Not that Robin Hood. But he did beat Dale. You're right. So, I don't know, guys. I think it's tough. I think it's, it's week 1. But Sapphire Steel's really good. For sure. It was the dominant deck of the weekend. It'll be a focal point of the meta report tomorrow. For sure. but it's nice. It's nice to get here and see some more thought around it, right? Like at least I know I'm not just crazy. Most of the team, I think all of the team agrees that it's potentially unhealthy. I don't know. We'll see. But if you're in here, right, if you just showed up, you just kind of like the on and off topic for the day is going to be, is Sapphire Steel a problem? And if you've enjoyed the conversation so far, do me a solid, hit the like button. I don't have any. Listen, guys, I know I'm on Twitch right now, and if you followed on Twitch, I appreciate you very much. I don't have it open, so I can't see who may have followed or not like that. But if you're a new follower, welcome. On YouTube, if you've already liked on YouTube, you're awesome. Thank you. And yeah, amethyst cards that place. Hold on, let's bring this back. Yeah, 100%. 100% RJ. Welcome to the stream this morning, RJ. Hope you're doing well. Amethyst cards that place cards from opponent's discard into the bottom. It calls me. Man, I don't know. Maybe. It calls me, at least replaces itself. The queen might never do her thing. Ever. And if she does it, it'll be once. Maybe it's good enough. To me, I played the deck last night at League, a couple games, like in between rounds, and almost all the time, I had all my popsicles in play, and then like I drew my Tamatoa, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'll just like pop my 2 popsicles, put them in the discard player, play my Tamatoa, and just pick them right back up. They're not even there for you to get rid of, guys. Like, they don't exist. Like, it's not like you could just like automatically get these cards. Like, they're not even there yet. So I don't even know how true that is. If I'm being real, guys, I don't know. I don't know how true it is. Yeah, so we talked about this to start. And I think this is certainly a deck that is good, that will answer this deck. But if you weren't here for the beginning, the big thing I have with this issue is that if this is the metagame that we're playing in, right? And just, again, like I'll set the setting. New weekly league. You get a new set comes out. People are excited to come back. They're excited to come play. And all of a sudden, their first round, they're like, oh, yeah, I got my sweet deck. I'm going to have so much fun. And then the first round, they sit down, they play across this Sapphire Steel deck, and they solitaire, and they just like put 18 items into play, and they gain 20 lore with 1 Tamatoa. Like, wow, they might be like, oh, that's kind of cool. I guess that's all right. It's, they did their thing. That was fun. And then in round 2, they sit down and they play against Emerald Steel discard, and they don't even get to play the game, right? Like, they're like, so now we went 2 rounds in a row and we didn't play the game. And then they come back the following week, and all of a sudden they sit down across from this Sapphire Emerald deck where like all they're doing the entire game is bouncing cards back to their hand, and then they make you discard their whole hand, or they take all your characters, they minus all their characters, and then they undersea all their characters. It's just like all of those scenarios are incredibly miserable for new players. I mean, like, incredibly miserable. So, like, if that's the metagame that we're going to live in for the next few months, I'm very worried for the health of Disney Lorcana. While I think competitive players can take it, like, I can take it. I can play a metagame where it's control and combo, and like, and there's these non-interaction things. I can take that, right? Like, I have 25 years of game experience. I have always, live and died by some of these decks. But I don't know that the average player is going to be able to survive in that, personally. I think Lorcana issue orders of release. Diablo is fine if released with answers and Shimmering Skies. Bell released. I'm going to be honest, guys. I think a 3 damage Fire the Cannons is not good. I've seen this take online. I think it's a terrible take. I think the answer is that Bell should not have been made. Because like the moment you release a Fire the Cannons for 3 damage, it changes the outlook of every other card in the game. Like, now Calhoun is bad. Now Smee is bad. Like, now all of these cards are just like that we've relied on for so long, all get hosed too. And whatever ink has this Fire the Cannons that does 3 damage, it's the best deck in the game for all of eternity, because it just means that like no card with 3 willpower that costs 2 or less, or even 3, 2 or more, can never see play. This can't be the answer. That's the problem, is that the moment you make this card, the game is in a way worse position. I don't think this is the answer. I honestly I think it's a terrible, terrible answer. I think it's a bad take. I really do. I would throw my. I remember coming home from NACC, and I told my wife, I'm like, listen, like we can test for set championships this week, but I'm gonna play this deck, and you're gonna absolutely hate it. And we played like for maybe an hour, and she was just like, yeah, that deck's awful. I can't believe that you're gonna play that deck. So that's kind of what I'm talking about. My wife is a brand new player to the game, and if a deck like Bend to My Will made her feel that way, and it, in set champs, some of the players I played against, like, like they didn't like it, they didn't enjoy it. So I'm worried that there's too many decks like that for sure. Would Bell being a 2/2 fix it? It would have helped. It'd have been a big deal. Would have been a big deal. An easy fix, Errata Bell, pay 1 ink on top of item cost. So like if it was just like banish an item, this character costs 2 less to play. Right? Is that what we're saying, RJ? So like it means you cannot play this card on turn 1, right? It's functionally impossible. And on turn 2, you could play a 3/3 for 1, right? Like, is that, I think that's what you're trying to do. That sounds about right. That's possible. Yeah, sure. 100%. Right. Yeah, definitely. Doc is great against Bend to My Will. They need another card like that. Yeah. I mean, Doc is great, period, for what it's worth. But it's only good off the top, right? Like, you can't have Doc in your hand and get Bend to My Will. You're like, oh, I die. This sucks. Eat all bells, you see. Do I have any on my table? I don't have any on my table right now, guys. But they're also like $1. You can't just eat $1. Is it been doing very well in the blue steel with this card? Yeah, I agree. I think Emerald Steel is a good answer to it. I just think that only creates a further unhealthy metagame for new player experience. And that's my worry. If we want to have this conversation, we can. I'll probably have it with Dick again on Thursday night. As we talk about this, we might talk about it with Nunez. I'm recording a video with Nunez about Sapphire Steel tonight. And, if you really want to start talking bans, I think this might be a critical take, and I think that people might be really upset by it. I think it's very unlikely that they will ban any new card. I think it's very unlikely that they're going to errata any new card. It's my personal opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe these cards are too good. Maybe they admit they fucked up and they actually get rid of one. Language, my bad, guys. Bad for the brand. But I think that if you wanted to hit this deck and hit the metagame as a whole in general, I would ban Popsicle, personally. I think that Popsicle it's the most innocent card to hit. It's the oldest card, and it critically affects the metagame in a very large portion. But like, again, I'm not sure if it's enough. I'm not sure if it's too far in a direction. I'm not here to make that decision. I'm just here that when I look at this deck and I look at how it's played, and I do my best to try and understand how it's played, Popsicle seems like the best card to hit. You leave Fortisphere, because by leaving Fortisphere, it might functionally make Bell and Tamatoa just like, they might just be unofficially be dual inks, like they might unofficially just become dual ink characters. So like they might not have steel on them, but if the only way we can play this is, okay, I have my Popsicles, or I have my Fortispheres, I have my I can't remember the name of the stupid thing that we're playing, the 1-cost item that when you banish it, it gets resist 1. That's another 1-cost item. And there are some other bad one-cost items in the game, right? Like Obscure is a bad one-cost item that's inkable. And Emerald, and I'm sure there's, obviously Vitalosphere. Like there's a million like Ruby ones. None of them redraw a card though, right? So I think the answer is like if we just take Bell and we just ban Popsicle, then it would hit this deck's consistency at a really large portion. It would also hit the consistency of all Sapphire decks at a large portion, which I think right now is a problem across the board. So I think it would be a really, really fair hit. And it's a common from set 2. Like, yeah, we can be upset about it, but like, it's a common from set 2, guys. I think that's where I would be. I think that, like, my initial take from the weekend, gun to my head, I would just ban Popsicle. Here's my boy S. Akuma, although it's S.CCG now. Seems like RB needs to focus in printing stronger cards in other colors rather than always looking to ban an errata cards. 2 legendaries in one color being a landslide is no bueno. Yeah, but that's the fun thing, right? Is that during reveal season, most people didn't think Scrooge was going to be good. Like the take on Scrooge was, he's going to be average. Like, he's okay, he's cool, he's cute, but like, who's going to get 4 items in play? So like, even the general public, and I would say even probably a bit more than the general public, weren't impressed by this card. So if they weren't impressed by the card, then there's a good chance that it was missed. There was a good chance that the interactions around this particular deck and all of the pieces, because that's the real truth, is that this deck, it's not one card. It is not one card that makes this deck oppressive. It is an entire cog of cards, and each one of them is enough of a role player to be important. If in a world where aggro doesn't exist, you don't need Bell, right? It's not important. In a world where control doesn't exist, you don't need Lucky Dime. So like all of the in-between pieces are just like, yeah, they're just role players. They're all a bunch of role players. And the sum of it is that we have this like giant sum that is role playing into everything. And it just becomes like this pseudo perfect version of a deck because that's just the way it works out. But it's all kind of positioning on like where it is and how we get there. So I think that's part of the problem too. That's why it's so hard to really just look at it and go, oh, like what is the core fundamental problem and how do we fix the fundamental problem, when a lot of it is just like slow roll, get a card, slow roll, get advantage, slow roll, get advantage. Like that's why I think it's the most problematic. That's why I think that in the end, Popsicle is the safest ban. I really just don't think they're going to ban a new card. Like I don't think they're going to ban or errata any card from Arcades Island. You can't. As a company, I think it's a bad decision. So if anything were to happen, if anything were to be hit, I imagine it'll be an older card. Personally, could be wrong. But yeah, so going back to this, stronger cards always great, better options always great. That's a duh, right? Like we would really love that. I do think that there's some level of disconnect to what, while designing sets, it's very possible that we got to think, guys, in most cases, they're probably designing sets a year ahead of public feedback, maybe longer, if I'm being completely honest, right? So if they're designing these cards a year ahead, it's very difficult to be certain that coming out of Azurite Sea, Ruby Sapphire was going to be the best deck, right? Like you can make all the assumptions you want, but in the time frame of designing, going on to the next thing, moving forward, you just can't be certain of anything, in my humble opinion. So it's really unfair to say, oh, they should be building the next set of cards, when it's so difficult. It really is. And maybe they thought like, hey, like all these cards are thematic. Like obviously, this set came out around the new Moana movie. Like Moana only came out like a month ago or something like that, or maybe it was set 6. But like they were probably building this set along to like with the idea that they knew a Moana movie was coming out. So like that's why Azurite Sea had Moana cards. That's why this set had Moana cards, because there was like an understanding of like when those things were coming out, and they were probably like, that's my guess. So So there's a lot of that going on too. And as much as we always want new cards to be good, and I wish it felt like right now at day one more cards were good. That's difficult. It's so difficult to make that assumption without without a. You gotta remember, guys. I think let's just say the design team now is 20 people. Let's just say, I don't know. Let's shoot for the sky, and let's just say they have 30 playtesters, right? So that's 50 people that are seeing something, and they're seeing these things that are a year and a half ahead of the public. The moment it hits public, it's infinity X, in all honesty. Like, let's just say we have, this is such a low number. Let's just say we have 10,000 players. That's still like infinite. It's still infinite compared to what 50 people are going to see in a room. And not to mention for a short period of time. In one day on a digital client, the public will have played more than the designers ever did. It's just a fact. So that's why to me, I'm never going to be that mad that stuff gets missed. It's just not fair. Like it's so easy to miss something. So like that's just where I'm at. Like, people can be upset, they can be annoyed, but like, guys, nobody's perfect under those situations. Do you feel that a set rotation might be better off than just banning? Well, we can't just be like, oh, here's set 7, let's rotate right now, right? Like, I don't know. Like, let's have this conversation. I for what it's worth, for anyone that's not in the Discord, we have a questions for the podcast section of the Discord. And this is one of the questions asked this week. And it is a subject that Dick and I are going to be covering on Thursday night, because I think it's a great subject to talk about. And I think this is a great question. But my immediate response to you right now is like, do you really think that set 7 could come out and in a response to public feedback with set 7, they can just be like, oh, you know what? Let's just rotate sets 1 and 2. Is there any testing at all done where it's like sets 3 to 7? Probably not, So can they fairly do a rotation without testing a rotation? Probably not, right? How do we know that this isn't worse? How do we know the game just like is bad or isn't fun? I don't know. So do I think there will be a rotation? Yeah. I mean, I think it's inevitable. Card game, in every card game that I have played at a competitive level, there has been a rotation. So I expect there will be one. But we're going to talk about more about that on Thursday night. That's a subject that Dick and I are going to talk about on Thursday night. Printing stronger cards to combat old cards that might be too strong leads to power creep that breaks the game. We need more balance in each set rather than shifting the power towards predictable colors in each time. Yeah, I mean, this is kind of true. I still think that it's okay, like, to push specific things, but we also saw it, in sets 1 and 2, Emerald was damn near unplayable, right? It just like, yeah, people played bad lemon lime decks and shit like that, but like, it was unplayable. It wasn't good. And then Ursula came out. One card, right? Like, Ursula came out, you're like, oh, okay, there's something here. Like, all right, there's definitely something here. And there was some other stuff, right? But Ursula was the foundation, I think, of a lot of it. And then boom, set 4, Diablo. Let's be honest, guys. The foundation of Emerald Steel is because of Bucky, one card from set 2, Diablo, and Ursula. Like one card of each of those sets. All it took was one really, really good card. And that's how it became like the best deck in the game. So we have slowly seen that over the last few sets with Sapphire. But the core pieces of Sapphire have always been there. There's always been good cards to ramp to. Like Chapter 1 Tamatoa has always been a card that we want to get to and we want to play. It's incredible to me that we thought we need more of these. That's where it gets alarming, But I'm okay. Like, I love the dueling cards, right? Like, I loved the concept of them. This was very similar to Locations in a way where I thought it was I still think it's insane to me that two of the three best locations in the game during the time that they were there were Queen's Castle. Like, Amethyst already had the best card draw in the game. And then they printed Queen's Castle. And it was like, it only made it better. It's like, what are you doing? Library only makes it better. You're like, why are we giving a card like Library and Queen's Castle to Amethyst Steel when it was already like the most dominant way to draw cards? It didn't make any sense. Ruby Sapphire, once it was figured out, getting McDuck Manor and saying, hey, you know what? We can play this Protect My Castle game as well. And we might even be able to do it better than you because we can ramp and we can just get to it faster and we can set up board states that are more unfair. Like, those three locations have been like really the most dominant locations in the game. Seven Dwarves, mine's, probably the fourth in terms of like actual playability and like surviving more than like a week or two in the metagame. So Duel Links having this ability to present these cards that focus on a power level, I think is good. But, did we really come out of the week, like weekend one, talking about any dueling cards? I don't think so. Like what dueling cards, like is Cobra the talking point? That's my fear. My fear is that they had this opportunity for Duel Links to really be a defining point in the metagame and really push some things. And I think it did push innovation. I think it did push, the ability to figure them out, and maybe it just needs more time. But in week one, they were not showcased well. Whereas like these cards were just so very dominant. Shout out Moana 2 on Disney Plus tomorrow. I'm excited. I saw it in theaters. I loved it. I took my daughter. We had a great time. Popped Out seemed like a more reasonable hit. I tried. Listen, I've been thinking about this for like 3 days. I think it's okay. I think people will move on. Why no Moana Enchanted though? I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. I believe that by Ursula they had set 10 in the works. That's like 2 years, right? Potentially. Probably. He's hilarious because he took Lily on Thanksgiving when it came out. I forgot. Ryan Miller said that they have 25 dedicated playtesters and bring in more as necessary. They test each set for about a month straight, but they definitely don't have a chance to catch everything. I agree. Hearthstone didn't rotate sets until year 3. How many sets did Hearthstone do a year? That's my question. I don't know. I hate Hearthstone because it killed my favorite game of all time, which was World of Warcraft trading card game. It was one of 2 reasons why World of Warcraft was discontinued. So I have played less than 5 games of Hearthstone in my life. Set 5 had no cards from previous sets in starters. I think they are planning for a 4-set rotation. We just aren't there yet. That's a pretty good educated guess. For Thursday, what would rotation mean for Thursday? What would a rotation means for card value? Insane. Yeah, we'll cover that on Thursday. But like, it's probably insane, for sure. I think set rotation is the best, such cleanest answer, but I want them to rotate on the anniversary of set 1 and rotate 1 year's worth of. That's a good bet. It's possible. I just don't see set rotations for this game. It seems they want to build on cards and archetypes rather than rotate the game. Always possible. I mean, if this is true, they have to be willing to ban cards when they mess up. That's a fact. So we'll have to see. I'm so eager for Worlds and the next DLC. That's sort of the data the public needs. So yeah, right. Like that's also a big thing here. And I probably didn't touch on this enough, but this is how I really, really feel. I think I said it in the tournament report from yesterday, but if we don't have DLCs, right? And you can honestly see this in Azerite Sea. In Azerite Sea, for Disney Lorcana competitive play, they had EUCC, NACC, and 1 Oceania DLC. EUCC had 96 players with whatever the number was for LCQ players, okay? NACC had 128 players with about 1,000, like 1,100 last chance qualifier players. And then the DLC in Oceania didn't even get cap. Like I think it was like, if I remember correctly, it was less than 400 players. If someone remembers the number, let me know. So competitively, it was the least creative game, like version of the game since DLC started. Because if you weren't going to go to NACC and you weren't going to go to EUCC and you certainly weren't going to go to Australia, your commitment to the game was at an all-time low. As a content creator, I can tell you guys with certainty that over the last 3 months were some of the lowest views in the history of the game, right? Like, you had holidays, you had a lack of organized play. The set championship cards sucked. Nobody wanted to play for Scars. So, like, when you have all those things compile up, the ability for people to be innovative is at an all-time low. I think this is the reason why Set 1 never got a proper, thorough creation of decks. And I think it's also true for Set 2. I think what I'm most worried about right now is that this deck was so good in week 1, people don't have a reason to fight it. They're just going to join them. Like, they're just going to build this deck and they're just going to play this deck because what's the purpose? If they have the cards in their, if they already have the cards, they're probably going to play it. Now, if they, in week 1, if they didn't buy Arcades of the Island because like, I don't have a DLC to play for, there's set championships aren't yet, I don't care, then they might not have Oswalds. They might not have Oswalds. They might not have Tamatoas. They might not have Scrooges, which is like the entire cost of the deck right now. So even that might lead them going like, okay, what can I do that's going to compete against this? Like, maybe that happens. But realistically, without the data of 2,000 player tournaments and without the data of like people really focused on beating a crucial part of the metagame, I fear that it won't happen. And I fear that even if it does happen, it'll be such a low percentage of the actual competitive players that it's not going to affect your local game store. It's not going to affect your 1Ks. It might not even affect set championships. So I'm very fearful of like not enough data to showcase things are actually going to be balanced. Very difficult. Great question, though. The set has definitely shaken up my trust in their ability to balance properly. I just don't think that's fair. I don't agree with that. Do you think the old Amethyst decks were more interactive? Yes, 100%. The last metagame with the Genie metagame, like we all joked about, like, oh, we played Genie, we played Elsa. Like the whole game was structured to be this interaction gameplay. Like what do I have? Like, do I have the Elsa to answer your stuff? Like, do you have it? Like, there was a lot of interaction and challenging and things going around like that like was very fair. There wasn't that many songs being played. Like Amber Steel wasn't really at an all-time high. Emerald Steel wasn't at an all-time high. It was much more of a Ruby Sapphire interaction, Amethyst Steel interaction. Like there was a lot of just interactive gameplay going on and really just like this like moving pawns and setting up queens and things like that. Like this format might not have that, which is scary. Mushu, Cobra, Pete are probably the most relevant dueling cards. Yeah, probably. I do think that there's a world that because of a deck like Sapphire Steel being relevant, a deck like Ink Geyser will also be relevant, for what it's worth. What it's really tough for one person to build anything. I think he'll be a great addition to Ravensburger, and I hope he does well. I really do. Just give me Jafar. No, we're not going to give you a Jafar 1 cost. Just give me a Jafar 1 cost, shift, and banish Bell on turn 3. I'm confused. I don't know what this means. There were 511 players. Oh, that's what it was. So it was 1,000 players, but they didn't hit the cap by any means. That's what it was. Okay. China, Japan are getting regionals or technically city qualifiers. This gives me hope that we also are getting similar smaller events. I don't know. I'm actually of the opposite, if I'm being completely honest with you, because I think that they're going to allow them to catch up to us at like an accelerated rate. So I'm worried this pushes our DLCs even further. Honestly, I hope that I'm not right, but that's what I'm most fearful of right now. I'm certainly afraid of that. to be truthful. So I don't know. It's tough. It's very tough. But yeah, wasn't the start of the last everyone saying Amethyst meta that ended up being different. Yeah, I mean, I think it was very versatile though. I also think there wasn't an opportunity either. You know, like again, shout out to DKP. He went out and he innovated from his EUCC and his NEC deck, and he dominated 2 tournaments in a row. Like 2 weeks in a row, he dominated. He finally did fall off a couple weeks later. You know, he wasn't perfect. I think even in terms of his own play, right? Like if we say he played in 5 tournaments of 100 players or more, you know, he was successful. Like he was really successful in 2 of them, and he probably was very unsuccessful in the other 3. But he utilized the first 2 to figure out what to do in the next 2, and he dominated both of those tournaments. He basically was undefeated in 2 events. But that's someone that's playing the game every single day, that's very dedicated to being the best version of himself, very dedicated to being the best Ruby Sapphire player on the planet. Like I think that's his core goal, you know, and it's up to him to innovate and get better and do those things. Not everyone has the time commitment that he does, you know. A lot of times they're going to go to his Metafy and look at what he's doing because he's a shortcut, you know. Take the shortcuts, guys. They're worth it. Time and effort are not free at all. Like if people are going to put time and effort into thing and they're going to be a master at something, they shouldn't be giving away anything for free. Like that's just my opinion on that. China/Japan are getting sets every 2 months in order to catch up quick. They will be on pace with everywhere else once they do. Yeah. But I do still think that puts them at like next March, like where it means we're a year from that potentially. And I'm not complaining about that. Like, do I think it sucks? Do I think the structure that was put in place in May of last year should be abolished. I think that you have your 28 people that are invited to Worlds right now. And if they just came out and said Worlds will not be this year, and we're going to have another season of DLCs and maybe even another Nationals to qualify for the first Worlds, I think the majority of the game would be completely content with that. I really do. Like it's way better than pushing Worlds till next year and not having any any DLCs this year. I think a year without DLCs is going to be miserable, and I can't live in a world where Dick Burns is correct. I can't do it, guys. I got to fight it. There are rumblings that Disney is getting more involved in the game and that causing some issues in messaging. I mean, who knows? Right? Let's be honest. We'll never know. We'll never know if that's true or false. It's not. That's the epitome of there's 3 sides to every story, but in this case, there might be 4 sides. So, like, I think Disney getting more involved is probably closer to better for the game long term than it is anything. And I think short term, it just means that Ravensburger has to get all their ducks in an order, and they have to just make sure that it's right. And I think long term, that's probably just better for us. I hate to say be patient because like I don't even want to be patient. I hate the idea that we don't know when the next DLC is. But hey, Southside Gaming, Charlie's Collectibles, world class cards. I'm saying that wrong, I think. I think I'm saying that wrong, which I apologize for. But you know, there's these third-party tournament organizers that are putting on events. Go support them. Like, go to a Charlie's Collectible. I did it in March. I did it in December. It was great. As a one-time thing, as I went, I checked it out. I'm like, yeah, this is great. I'm glad I did it. Southside Gaming down in Miami, awesome. Go support them. World class cards in Wisconsin. And at the end of the month, like if you're in the area, you can drive to it, go there. I'm sure flights are not cheap because flights to Wisconsin probably aren't cheap in general. But if you're within driving distance, 2-3 hours, something like that, like go. Like just go support these games. That's what we need right now, honestly. I'm going to keep preaching that forever. Remember, these tournaments are an early meta game. People are just testing out stuff. Things will change. My biggest concern in TM is pricing for decks. I'm the most decks are getting too expensive. Yeah, so I actually said this in the Discord, but, you know, in our Metafy chat, we were talking about this a little bit, the price of the game. in week 1 for our top 8 decks that I did yesterday for that tournament report that was out yesterday, the average cost of a deck at the time I did this, which is, I think it's more now, but the average cost of a deck was $422. There was not a single deck in the top 8 that was below $170. I do think that is a problem. So I am worried about it. I think it sucks. I think it's not good. I do think prices are incredibly inflated right now. I do not think that, Tamatoa, Scrooge, and Oswald are going to hold this price range. I don't. But that's also why I said you should probably be waiting to buy cards if you don't have to. Like, just wait till big box release. Wait till more things come out before purchasing cards. I think the biggest turn away for new players is the price tag most time. Yeah, it can be. I think it can be only specifically in a world where they feel like because my opponent spent money, they beat me. And that's not always true, for what it's worth. But, if in set 6, I think it was a great time, if I had players like that were from other games that wanted to get into the game and I said, hey, what type of deck do you like? And they're like, oh, I like mid-range, or I like control, or I like aggro. Like, I would have an answer for all those things. I'd be like, okay, well, like, any one of these decks is a pretty good entry-level deck. Ruby Amethyst is $230. Amethyst Steel is $180. There's budget versions of these decks that are under $100. Like, you can kind of, like, be pretty good and really showcase that. I had a coaching session Sunday night, and I said the biggest problem right now, like this early on, figuring out like what deck you want to play is in a world where if this non-interactive deck is $700 and it's going to be the most dominant deck in the game, it's so difficult to be like, yeah, like you're going to go play your fair deck. Like it's tough. So I think I think before in Azerite Sea, we could have this conversation. In Shimmering Skies, I brought a $75 deck to a DLC. I won over $2,000. At NACC, in the side events, we brought an $80 deck to side events, and we won over $2,000. Like, you could have made the argument, like, if you want to be a budget player, you can be a budget player. Right now, I don't know that we can say that, and that is concerning, for sure. Do you think Ruby Amethyst is going to have any chance to sit? Off the cuff, personally, my humble opinion, no. I'm always going to be prepared to be wrong. I don't think so. If I'm wrong, I'll eat my words. I don't really care. I have zero interest in the evolution of Ruby Amethyst. I'm not going to be the guy that's probably playing that deck. It's probably not going to happen. First round of DLCs dropped on March 20th of last year. Shout out to my wife. That's her birthday. So fingers crossed we hear something soon, but we're getting a little too close. The problem with this is that they told us in January that we were going to get an information about organized play. And at the end of NACC, they signed off the stream saying, see you at Worlds. No information. We did not get a Lorecast either. No information. I am not holding my breath for March 20th this year. I'm just not. I hope. Listen, I pray there's an announcement on March 20th. If there's an announcement on March 20th, I promise you I will go live immediately after the announcement happens, and we can come talk about it. But I don't think so. Yes, wait for Big Box. In all honesty, how many tournaments are we going to between now and Big Box? It's better to wait. Yeah, 100%. It makes it hard to want to play the game knowing you might not be able to compete. I 100% agree. Not to touch on politics, but Lorcana is supposed to be my escape for the sake of my sanity. I hope Ravensburger figures it out. Yeah, let's not touch on politics. It's a terrible idea. My concern is more tournaments from now till Big Box release will continue to inflate prices. So they shouldn't, because right now it's just about a supply and demand thing. The majority of people that bought product are players of the game, right? So if if the majority of people are players, that means everything they open this weekend they're keeping, which means sales for this weekend are limited. Where once big box hits and once the stores get another flow of them, it means that everything from big box moving on will be for sale on average. So therefore, the prices of everything should drop just because the sellers of everything should increase. So right now, it's just strictly supply and demand type thing. March 20th, they'll have an announcement of an announcement. Ooh. I hate that you could be right. I don't think this is true, though. I'm not ready for it. You guys have been awesome this morning. I hope you guys are having as much fun as I am. I'm losing my voice a little bit already. This is why I need someone else to talk to. This is why we tolerate Dick Burns on Thursday nights, right? Just so I'm not talking to myself for like 2 hours. I'm getting yelled at. I think I'm okay. I thought Melissa was yelling at me. Hi, Melissa. If Ben's not watching, just kidding. So what? We talked a lot about this, guys, which is good. I have some topics for the week, and things that we're gonna do, and it should be fun. I should be back tomorrow morning. Maybe a little bit earlier. We'll see. We'll see what's going on. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe. But the meta report will be out tomorrow, so that should be fun. Is there any other deck aside from Sapphire Steel this weekend that you guys were excited to see? Because that's the real question, right, guys? Like, we had this huge breakout for... Actually, you know what I want to bring out right now? I got to go find it. There's a deck that was not successful in terms of top 8 or top 16, but I think it's a really cool deck, and I want to go bring it up for you guys. It will be in the meta report, so we're going to have a little more focus. Amber Emerald Hyper Aggro. That was the top 8 of SSG, right? I have not gone and watched SSG yet, but I know it top 8 it. This is what I remember. The Lady deck looks great. Okay. All right. I'm excited. I bet you Lizard Kitty here is excited for some Lady action. How do I find this deck? Wow, I'm getting blown up from everywhere. Where is all this stuff coming from? Let me find some stuff. I'm trying to find this deck that I want to talk about. I don't have it in our Discord yet. Where is it? Oh, okay. Here we go. We'll bring it up over here. I'll chuck it up on screen. And we'll take a look. Let's remove this. Boom. So, the LCCC is starting today or yesterday. Actually, was it yesterday or was it today? I can't remember. I think it's today. And Zach Bibbins is playing in it. And this was a list that Wochuk played this weekend to, I think, a 20th place finish at SSG. So we missed out on top 16, missed out on top 8. And one of these cards are very interesting. There's a couple things here that I think most players probably glossed over. Oh, no. There we go. Make it a little bit bigger for you guys. I know that's blurry as hell, and I apologize for that, but this is the best we're going to do for right now. So, Miss Bianca, right? This just random common from set 6. Hello. This card's good. I played this in Limited last night to my 3-0 victory at 7 Dimensions. Shout out to all our 7 Dimensions friends. And Miss Bianca on turn 4. Listen, guys, I've always liked Scrooge McDuck. 4 cost 5/5 uninkable. If you told me that I can have an inkable 5/5 on turn 4, hoo-hoo! Oh boy. She's real good, guys. This is a great catch by Bivens and Wochuk. I think this card's gonna be good. I think this is a card that nobody was talking about. So leave it up to Bivens on finding this one, of course. This would have been like a deck that Bivens would have played at a DLC, and everyone would have been like, "What the hell is Miss Bianca?" And yeah, right. So this is why everyone's like, "Oh, why are they playing the turtle? Why are they playing the turtle, guys? He's an ally. He's an ally." There you go. Interesting, right? Interesting. I don't have it. I suck. If Melissa, if you're in chat and you have some time and you can duplicate this list for me, that would be great. I don't have the ability to do it right now. Melissa is my girl though. Whenever I need some stuff done, hopefully she can help me out. And we'll do that for you. This was just literally a message from Twitter. Yeah. I could see that. But nobody was talking about an Amber Steel, right? Like, who's talking about an Amber Steel? And the real truth is that, like, we're talking about this in like a meme deck almost, where we're playing allies in blue steel just to get like meme stuff going on. But like this deck, getting stats in this deck is so crucial, right? Like we've already learned over the course of the history that Smee, Lawrence, people started playing Gaston just because of stats. So getting another stat stick in this deck, like even Pluto, right? Like Pluto is not always a 5/5, and Bodyguard is great, but it was never really always about that. Like sometimes it was relevant, but just having a 5/5 on 4, very interesting. The Neverland is the card, I think Neverland's the most interesting card because every once in a while we see these 1-cost locations pop up, and it always feels to me that it's early on in the metagame, but they never last. So I'm very curious if Neverland is going to end up lasting. Like even us, like we put fairy ships in our list for Doc, like for Doc Aggro early on, and it just seems like it always looks good early, and then for some reason it doesn't work out. No Pete was definitely something I was going to pick up on for the meta report because I think it's insane. But this also goes into that rule, right? And I love talking about this. Everyone's always like, man, we need rabbit, we need goat, we need genie, like we need whatever. Pete's probably a card that like every steel player on planet Earth is like, well, I need 4 steels. I need 4 Petes. How am I going to win without Pete? Maybe, I don't know. Maybe you don't need him. Maybe that's the first card that Bivens realized he does needs, or Wochuk does need. Wochuk makes an Amber Steel guide on Metafy. He's been an Amber Steel player forever. Go check him out. He's great. Wochuk's awesome dude. Really funny guy. So yeah, I think it was cool. It was cool to see this come out because there's a set 6 card in it, which is awesome. So, in the list that was in both of the decks that we had at our event, there were no set 6 cards in Amber Steel. So it was great to see the Turtle and Miss Bianca kind of like pop up and just show like, oh, okay, there's something there. I think that's good. That's good for the health of the game for sure. So I don't know. We'll see. It's been fun. Yo. Coming in, hanging out. How are you? Oh, guys. What a crazy conversation. I had like 8 things to do written on this piece of paper here. We only did 2 of them. That makes me feel like you guys were awesome today. So thank you for that. But I gotta like get ready because I gotta pick my kids up kind of soon. But if you did hang out with me this morning, I really do appreciate it. It was awesome. The conversation was great. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. If you haven't yet, smash a like button for me. If you're watching after the fact, comment. Let me know. And yeah, this is gonna be this is episode 1 question mark, because I do plan on doing these a couple times a week now. I said earlier the plan will be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, as long as I can make that happen. Streaming twice on Thursday might be difficult, so I might have to. We might just change our time. There are Pete's. I'm making a list right now. What? I don't see any Pete's. Where are Pete's? Image was cropped. What? Insane. All right. When she's done, I will have her DM me and I'll drop the new link. You can't do it. DM me, Melissa. I have to change that on Twitch. There's 2 things we have to do on Twitch, guys. When we're going to do these morning streams, 2 things, right? Number 1, we got to make something to do with the bits. Wonderland yelled at me 3 weeks ago. I was like, all right, Wonderland, let's figure out something to do with the bits. I haven't done anything with them. I suck. Got to do that. Number 2, I got to change the stupid setting to allow links. It's got to be done. Where are you at, Melissa? Where's my friend? There you are. Hi, friend. Boom. I literally wrote to her, hi, friend. I promise. Dun, 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 dun. There it is. Edit. Save. We're just going to make it public. Screw it, right? And then we're going to share. Copy. Boom. Here it is, friends. We got there. But yeah, so I'm going to be hanging out the next couple of mornings. Maybe it means I have to get Dick Burns up for an early morning stream, which he'll probably hate, but we'll see. We'll see. Should be fun, though. And there's lots of stuff going on in the community the next couple of days. The CCCCL, Pavel put on another awesome tournament. Some of the best players in the world. 15 players with world invites being showcased in this tournament. Very excited to watch. It's not every day we get to just have that ability to watch great players play great Disney Lorcana. So I'm very excited. I should be more a part of it this time. I'm hoping to commentate, and you might get a couple games on here over the next few weeks. We'll see exactly how the times work out, if we can make that happen. But I do intend on being a part of it this time a little bit more. Instead of closing the show, we're going to be a part of the show. So I'm very excited about that. And then, of course, the ICL, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays now, although it's off this Friday. So Wednesday night, there's ICLs back. So if you haven't been checking out that's been a lot of fun. It's been a great project for everyone. So there's plenty of people out there putting content out, specifically competitive content for sure, that is trying to keep the game going, trying to keep people interacting and things like that. So if you're looking for it, the content is there. Go check those people out. Obviously, the CCCL is kind of, and everyone, it's a community thing. Everyone from the community kind of is going to be involved in that. I don't know all the names that are commentating and streaming. There's a lot of them. So just be on the look at it. We're going to probably be posting on socials and things like that. Am I getting yelled at by Melissa again? No. Oh, okay. I did have the pick cropped. There is pizza in it. I did mess up. I see that now. So yeah, there's lots going on, and I'm excited for it. There's a couple big tournaments coming up. CCS is one of them. World class games or world class cards. I gotta get this right, guys. They have another one, so that's 2 big events coming up, and I'm sure there's more to come. So if you're looking to play competitive Lorcana, then I think that it'll be there for you if you want it. So I don't know. We'll see. But thank you guys, everyone, for hanging out today. You guys were super awesome. The chat was phenomenal. You guys are great. I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. And we will be back tomorrow morning hanging out, and I might have a guest. We'll see. We'll see if I can gather the guests in the morning. But if not, I will go and do the right thing. Hold on. My Twitch friends that are hanging out with me, I will remember to send you guys somewhere before I get off. I won't be that person if we're hanging out. I see someone that's already on here, which is great because it makes my life super easy to send people somewhere. All right. Kapow. Boom, boom. All right. Where's my friends? There he is. There's my friends. I'm going to send you guys to Spessy. Always active. Always a great community builder. So go hang out and check out Spessy and have fun. For those of you on YouTube, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me this morning. And I will be back tomorrow. And looking to have another great chat and more coffee. See you guys.